Hey guys, I got a kind of a fun, interesting topic to talk about tonight, and that is how to enable your natural pharmacy through the process of fasting. I recently experimented with fasting in the last couple of years, and it has become an integral part of my wife and I's normal weekly routine of keeping our bodies adapted to multiple sources of fuel. Now, I know all of us learned in science class that once our bodies take on carbohydrates, fat, and protein, that our body eventually has to break them all down into ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is the fuel that we reduce it down to feed our mitochondria. Now, one thing we were all told in science class and biology class was that each of our cells maybe have 2 of those mitochondria, which really science has now told us that keeping the health of our mitochondria is really what we're after. However, it turns out that there were a lot more than just 2, more like 200 maybe. And why is that important? Well, when we fast, there was a certain reason why Jesus told us to do this. He didn't say, and if you fast, you should do these things. He said, when you fast. Now, we may have been giving probably some of the absolute worst diet advice, which was eat a bunch of small meals all throughout the day. And what does that do to our blood sugar? Bunch of spikes all throughout the day. And now our adrenals are totally tanked. And a lot of people have diabetes because, you know what, their glucose is just, they can't handle it anymore. And we haven't fasted because why? We have food available to us all the time that people 100, 200 years ago didn't have that luxury. And I know what most of us are thinking is like, well, we are able to live in a country where we should be able to eat all the time. And you know what? There's countries that don't have the luxuries that we have that are a whole heck of a lot healthier than we are. So let's learn some things from them. Number one, when we fast for just 24 hours, here's what our body does. When our body stops working, this is the way I explain it to myself. This is how I learned it, is like, when we stop eating food, it's like when they shut down the store and the little enzymes and bacteria in our stomach, they go grab the mops and they start cleaning stuff. They're cleaning the little grooves out in our stomach. They shut down for maintenance. And if we never shut things down, we can never clean the insides of us to heal. So in those 24 hours without food, our body burns through all of that glucose of the last food we ate, and then it starts burning a secondary fuel called glycogen, which we store in our liver and in our muscles. If you burn through it in your muscles, you'll know you lift something, your muscles get swollen, and then there's just no more fuel left. Your liver, you'll know when you start burning glycogen when you switch over. You'll have a lot of mental clarity. You won't feel hungry. Those cravings will be gone. And then certainly the bacteria that we use to break those foods down suddenly, after 24 hours, notice that there's no food to break down, and you start to see changes in the microbiome in your gut, and you can tell with that which ones more you have, because those will be the things you begin to crave after that first 24 hours. Now, my wife and I have both done fasts for longer than 24. I've done several 5-day fasts where I've gone no food for 5 days, just water. And after that 24 going into the 48, I start to notice that my body has begun the process of autophagy, or natural cell apoptosis. Cells that continue to reproduce or exist without a purpose, that's the definition of cancer. Let me say that one more time. Cells that continue to exist in the body that have lost their purpose and communication with everything else, that is truly the definition of cancer. So when you fast, your body starts to hunt down the cells that are damaged, that are weak, and it cleans them out through a process called autophagy. They don't exist anymore. You notice your joints start to feel good again. Any inflammation you had starts to go away. And our gut starts to heal itself. If you have a natural gluten intolerance or you're lactose intolerant, blah, blah, blah. Just know that those things are temporary. That's not one of those genetic cards you've been dealt that you just have to deal with for the rest of your life. That's a temporary situation. Same with like even something is like a peanut allergy. That's not a final blow. That's not something you fight for the rest of your life. You do those things by narrowing them down to heal your microbiome, then slowly over time, long periods of time. So what does our schedule look like now? We try to do a 5-day fast twice a year. And it has done more for my mental clarity, my struggles with anxiety. You don't know a better weapon to fight anxiety than fasting. It's not starving yourself. It's not you have an eating disorder. You are in control. You are telling your body, we are going to eat and we are going to not eat. As Solomon said, he's like, there's a time to do this and a time to do that. There's a time to feast and there's a time to famine, and we have to do both. We can't just eat all the time. That's what got us into this mess that we're in right now, with 1 in 3 people getting ready to be dealt a card of, would you like diabetes? Imagine playing diabetes roulette. You don't have to play that. It's not genetic. It's lifestyle. And then what do we like to do throughout the week? I'm going to include 2 or 3 podcasts because I know most of us I don't want to take the advice of a farmer either. So this is where I learned it. I'm just going to give you the podcasts of the interviews with the doctors, cutting edge doctors in health and nutrition that are just blowing the roof off the place with research and studies out of UCSF is mainly where a lot of the stuff is coming from. And it's awesome. Dr. John Gilday, Dr. Zach Bush are 2 of really great researchers on this. I'll include some podcasts and interviews from Dave Asprey, who has really touched base with some cutting edge researchers on fasting as well. But for those of you that haven't heard about it, maybe I might be the first one you did, and it leads you down a new path to a new lifestyle of health. Because ultimately, we all have to realize that we can't depend on healthcare for health. Healthcare is every day. We all own healthcare. Every second we decide to put something in our mouth, we all take self-responsibility for it. We have to take self-responsibility. We have no other choice at this point. Our economy cannot care for this many sick people. It just can't. We can't afford that. We're already in debt, and if our healthcare system has to accommodate for, right now the CDC has on their website, 42% of children are already diagnosed with some sort of chronic disease. That's uncalled for. Why did that happen? What did we do to make that happen? I mean, that's not genetics. It's not even transgenerational epigenetic toxicity. The genetics of the generation before this caused this. It wasn't their fault either. We changed something. So fasting, some days we'll do 1 meal a day where we will only eat lunch. Here's some fun things we experimented with is that my wife and I would not eat supper and we would not eat breakfast 2 to 3 days a week. And we noticed that on days that we did not eat supper, when we woke up the next morning, we felt so good. I mean, there wasn't that time where you're just like rolling out of bed and you feel so groggy. And, it was like when your eyes opened, you were awake and you shot out of bed and you were ready to go. And that energy continued. And when lunchtime came around, it was almost like we had to we're supposed to eat. And we would went ahead and eat, and when you do eat every 24 hours, especially if you're doing a lot of physical activity, you have to choose very carefully what you eat. You can't just eat junk. You got to feed your body with the absolute 100% best fuel you can get a hold of. No junk. You can't afford that at that point. And then once you get into that routine for a while, you suddenly start to experience this new level feeling so good every day. You have patience, you have focus, You're able to recall information. You're able to recall dates and instances. You don't stumble on words. Everything is just right there, ready to go. You're motivated. You're able to control different ups and downs. I mean, being isolated all day, not being able to be around people, I do struggle a lot with just, sometimes just a nasty, anxious depression will come over me, and it's tough to get a hold of. But if I'm in the middle of a fasted state, it's much easier for me to manage it. Anyway, I hope these ideas maybe spawned curiosity, is really actually my only goal. I hope it spawns curiosity so that my hope is that you begin down a road of research, and I hope curiosity breeds in you like it has Janessa and I and other people that we have looked up to that have gone down the same path and changed their lives through the absence of food. God made our bodies the absolute most powerful pharmacy, Pharmacy, through fasting, Phasting. Anyway, love you guys. I gotta go milk cows. We'll catch you tomorrow night. See ya.